You know that feeling, right? Your heart is absolutely pounding in your chest, your palms get sweaty, and your first thought is probably, oh no, I'm so anxious. But what if I told you that feeling is just one tiny thought away from being excitement? In this explainer, we're going to dig into this wild idea that the only real difference between fear and excitement is the story you're telling yourself. Seriously, think about it for a second. Imagine you're on a roller coaster, just clicking its way up that first massive hill. Now, switch gears. Imagine you're walking into a final exam you are not prepared for. That heart-pounding butterflies in your stomach feeling. Are they really all that different? Well, here's the crazy part. When you look at what's happening inside your body, they're practically identical. For both anxiety and excitement, your heart starts racing, your breathing gets quicker, and your muscles tense up. Your body is basically just screaming, something big is happening. So, if the physical feeling is the same, what gives? The real difference maker isn't in your heart or your lungs. It's all happening upstairs, in your brain. It's the label, the story, the interpretation you stick onto those physical feelings. And that one little mental move can change everything. Okay, so how on earth does this actually work? Well, it turns out that scientists have figured out that emotions aren't just one thing that happens to us. They're actually a two-step process. Let's break that down. First, something happens, and you get that physiological arousal. That's just your body's automatic physical response. The racing heart, the whole deal. But then, almost at the exact same time, step two kicks in, cognitive appraisal. That's your brain scrambling to figure out why your body is freaking out. It asks, hey, why is my heart racing? And the answer it lands on, well, that's the emotion you feel. And here's the key. That second part, the appraisal, that's where we can take back control. And this leads us to a super powerful tool psychologists call emotional reappraisal. It's basically the strategy of consciously changing your interpretation, your story, to change the emotion you end up feeling. Instead of just letting your brain default to, this is scary, I'm anxious, you get to step in and choose a different story. Now, this isn't just some nice feel-good idea. It's actually backed by some really fascinating science. So let's take a look at how researchers discovered that we can literally hijack this emotional process. Believe it or not, one of the most famous experiments that showed how our brains can get things wrong all started on a couple of bridges. One of them pretty terrifying. Okay, so picture this. Researchers had a bunch of guys cross one of two bridges. The first one was this crazy high, wobbly suspension bridge swinging over a canyon, totally nerve-wracking. The other one was just a low, solid, stable bridge, no big deal. In the middle of whichever bridge they were on, a female researcher stopped them, asked them to make up a quick story about a picture, and then gave them her number, in case they had questions. And this is where it gets wild. The guys on the scary, shaky bridge, their stories were way more romantic, even a little risque. And get this, they were way more likely to actually call the researcher later. Why? Their brains felt the high arousal, the pounding heart, the adrenaline from being on a dangerous bridge, and mislabeled it. They thought, wow, I must be really attracted to this person, when really they were just scared. Their brains got their wires crossed. Okay, so our brains can get it wrong by accident. Cool story. But here's the million-dollar question. Can we get it wrong on purpose? Can we intentionally relabel a feeling like anxiety and turn it into something useful? Well, the answer seems to be a huge yes. A study out of Harvard put this to the test in some of the most classic anxiety-inducing situations you can think of: giving a speech, singing karaoke in front of strangers, and taking a tough math test. So before they did these scary tasks, they split people into groups. One group was told to say, I am anxious. The other group was told to say, I am excited. The results were just incredible. The I'm excited group didn't just report feeling more excited, they actually performed better. People who watched their speeches with no idea what group they were in rated them as more confident, more competent, and more persuasive. Just changing that one little word changed everything. All right, so we've got the science, we've seen the proof. Now for the really good part. How do you actually use this? Let's get into a simple technique you can use to flip that mental switch. It all comes down to a really simple but profound idea from anxiety coach Barry McDonough. The words you say to yourself literally change your body. You've probably been running a script in your head that says, I can't do this, this is too much, which just makes the anxiety worse. It's time to give your brain a new script. And the technique is so simple. Step 1, the next time you feel that anxiety creep in, just notice the physical feelings. Don't judge them, don't fight them, just acknowledge them. Okay, my heart is beating fast. Step 2, start repeating a new phrase to yourself. I'm excited by this feeling. Just say it over and over. Your brain might argue at first, but just keep going. And then, step 3, feel for the flip. It's this subtle internal shift, a little release as your brain starts to buy into the new story. So here's the main takeaway, and it feels a little backwards, but it works. When you're anxious, your body is amped. Trying to go from that high energy state all the way down to calm is a massive jump. It's really hard to do. But shifting from one high energy state, anxiety, to another high energy state, excitement, that's a much smaller, much easier step to take. So the next time you feel anxious, don't try to calm down. Try to get excited. And really, this brings us to the biggest idea of all. This isn't just a trick to get through a presentation. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with fear. Because let's be honest, if the only reason you feel calm is because you've successfully avoided everything that scares you, that's not really a win, is it? You're just making your world smaller and smaller. Real growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. The point isn't to get rid of fear entirely. The point is to learn how to walk into it, to use its energy instead of letting it paralyze you. Choosing to step into that uncomfortable feeling, knowing you have the power to flip the switch and turn it into fuel, now that is progress. So the question isn't how to avoid fear, but what are you going to do with all that energy?